Welcome to the NFC West Huddle. Yes, it's that time of year. The regular season is here. Hallelujah. We're actually playing real games. This is a show where we break down everything NFC West division. Over in Seattle, we have the real baller in the group, Alyssa Charleston. She's the one that can really hoop. And then, of course, in San Francisco, my man, Pots and Pans, Keyshawn Ward. Over in L.A., he's always big time in us, but this time he actually showed up. It's Ryan Dyrud. Let's talk about week one. Some teams won, some teams didn't. I think the division overall looked pretty good. What are your thoughts on the first game of the season? Alyssa, let's go check in with you. What did you like, what you didn't like about your team over there in Seattle?
Well, sorry to bring the team down because the division went 3-1 and the Seahawks were the one loss. Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers going head-to-head with the Seahawks, but the good, it was the defense. You turned Brock Purdy over twice, got some nice interceptions from Josh Jobe and Ernest Jones, but the offense really didn't turn it into anything other than 3 points. And in terms of the pressure, Brock Purdy was pressured at a career-high 58% rate, according to Next Gen Stats. So I think Mike Macdonald is happy with how his defense performed. The one negative was Reek Woolen. In crunch time, he gave up 2 of the biggest plays of the game, 40-plus yard to Ricky Pearsall, and then obviously to Tonjes, the third-string tight end. Poor dude is just getting called a third-string tight end in every single recap of this game. But it was Reek Woolen in coverage both times, and Mike Macdonald was asked just yesterday about whether or not he will start in week 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he said, we'll see. Long, awkward pause. Obviously, the bad was the offense. Sam Darnold did not come up clutch in the moment where he should have. That's what they paid him to be. I know you're all so surprised, Richard. Shocked that Sam Darnold didn't. But overall, he wasn't bad. He managed the game. No turnovers, except for the fumble in the red zone, which was just brutal.
Yeah, and right after that happened, when Sam Darnold blew it, I got a text from when Keyshawn Ward said, of course Sam Darnold will blow it. See, he's adding fuel to the fire, Alyssa.
You're
so let's go to
behind
Keyshawn.
My back.
Yeah, I could not stop laughing because he knew I was going to say something about it. You knew, Keyshawn. I was just sitting there going, man, he's just a guy. Gino's not that guy. Sam is just the guy. You should have kept Gino, Alyssa. So, Keyshawn, what do you think about you guys over there in San Francisco, the good and the bad?
Man, Richard, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sorry, Alyssa, I had to say it because I was watching that game. I was like, it's only a matter of time. And then Nick Bosa didn't really force fumble. Darnold just lost it. The lineman bumped. Now, Bosa did create the pressure, but Darnold lost the ball himself. But let's start with the good with the 49ers against the Seahawks. The defense looked revitalized by Robert Saleh. I mean, they held Sam Darnold to 150 yards passing on 16 completions, and then Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, they both had under 50 yards rushing. That's a pretty good day at the office for that rushing defense for the 49ers. Now for the 49ers offense, now the concern with Christian McCaffrey was his calf, but he looked pretty unbothered by it. I mean, he tallied 142, total yards on offense that game, and then, the guy of the whole game. I mean, let's just mention Brock Purdy. Yes, he threw those 2 interceptions, but one thing about Purdy I could always defend him on, he just come through when it matters. He found our Los Gatos native, a local product here in the Bay Area, on that game-winning touchdown. And that's why Purdy he got that contract in the offseason. He just always finds ways to win ball games and make winning plays. Now let's get to the bad. I mean, the talk of the whole game was Jake Moody. I mean, that 27-yard doink pretty much got his job taken away, and that's why he got waived this week by the 49ers. And then the injuries, oh my God. At this point, I'm tired of calling 49ers. We're the 49 Glassers. We just break like glass every week or every season. It seems like for the past couple of years. I don't know what it is. I mean, Brock Purdy now has a toe injury. He's going to be out 2 to 5 weeks. And he has a shoulder injury as well. And then George Kittle was placed on IR with a hamstring. Juwan Jennings has a shoulder injury. He might be day-to-day. Game-time decision. So it's just like, man, the Niners can never get out the way. But that's good and bad from the 49ers in week 1 against the Seahawks.
And I got a theory on what's going on with the 49ers and all those injuries. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's check in with my man Ryan over there with the Lambs. I mean, the Rams. You guys, able to pull it off. Just give us your good and bad over there.
Yeah, definitely not any lambs on defense, Richard. This unit, I thought, looked great against the Texans, holding, C.J. Stroud under 200 yards passing, and the pressures. I'm sure everyone saw Jared Verse and Byron Young and what they were able to do against those tackles in terms of creating havoc and pressure in the backfield. So the good was definitely this defense. Anytime you hold an NFL team to under 10 points, that's where you got to start. I thought I mentioned the defensive line, but you look at the secondary. And Ahkello Witherspoon has quietly become a really good cornerback in this league now, being with the Rams a couple of years, held Nico Collins to, I believe, 1 catch for 4 yards. So absolutely was able to shut down their biggest unit. A lot of that because of that pass rush and that pressure is able to get. And then the exclamation point at the end of the game when the Rams had a turnover of their own, give it back to the Texans, and you get Nate Landman with the absolute poetic peanut punch, and then one of the greatest hungry hippo fumble recoveries I have seen in quite some time there to end the game and ice it. So the defense looked fantastic. It's a unit that's continued to have questions ever since Aaron Donald retired, ever since Raheem Morris took the Atlanta Falcons job and Chris Shula was unexpectedly hired, and it's a unit that continues to overperform and exceed expectations. So I wouldn't say bad, Richard, but the not so good would definitely be the offense. You only score 14 points. It's a Sean McVay unit. You expect more out of. Puka Nacua looked great. Obviously missed some time when he got, popped in the head and was bleeding down his eye, but was still able to have over 130 yards receiving. The one qualm I do have, and I think I talked about it on our preview show actually, was what this running game would look like and what the running back rotation would look like. Blake Corum, 1 carry. Jarquez Hunter, healthy scratch. So it was always the Kyren Williams show, and all through training camp, we kept hearing from Sean McVay, we love our running back field, we love the room, we can't wait to get more guys involved, and it was a lot more of the same of last year of Kyren Williams, and that's all it was. So that was the, maybe not bad, but more the head scratching from the offense.
That was the good for me because Kyren Williams was on the chimichanga. So I'm like, hey, feed him the ball. Of course I handcuffed Blake Corum with him, but still, I liked it. I'm like, hey, more Kyren Williams, the better for the chimichanga. So I was happy, right? All right, we talked about the good, the bad for each team. How about the ugly? Because not me, talking about the Cardinals win. It was an ugly win. Yeah, I see where you guys' minds went. No, talking about the Cardinals, that was an ugly win, but it's still a win is a win is a win. And it was on the road. It's not that funny, Keyshawn. I see you. I hear you laughing over there. You're trying to agree with that comment. I know what you're doing there.
Also, ugly were the Saints' uniforms. Put those in the trash and set them on fire.
God.
Real ugly.
Yeah, what was
they look like Wake Forest.
They took the L before the kickoff.
Truly.
And it was like I said, ugly uniforms for the Saints. No ugly acres on this show, but we also had an ugly win by the Arizona Cardinals, right? And look, the good teams win ugly. Am I saying the Cardinals are a good team? Well, they're off to a good start. Because when you win in week 1 and you win on the road, you win in hostile territory, you beat the Saints in their own house. The Saints had won 6 straight week 1 games in a row. That was the longest current streak in the National Football League. So it's not an easy place to play in and win, especially, in week 1. So that was it. But the thing that was interesting to me, Will Johnson, the rookie, he looked good. I told you guys, I have it in my diary. I keep receipts, Alyssa. I keep receipts. I told you guys he was going to be a steal. He looked fantastic. If he was healthy, he would have been a top 5 pick. People gave me a hard time about that, but he looked great. He was the rookie of the week. He had that big hit on Chris Olave. Olave still saying, who dat? Who there? After he got hit like that, right? He said, who they? Who they going to beat them Saints? Who dat? Who hit him? That's what happened, right? But no pressure on the quarterback that let Spencer Rattler kind of get off to a good start and feel comfortable back there. And I thought they were going to get after the quarterback, especially a young quarterback, and all that money they put on the defensive line. So I'd like to see more pressure on the quarterback. But I did like to see, like I mentioned, the win. The NFC West goes 3-1. Not bad, right? Let's start with you, Ryan. What do you think? Is the NFC West the best division in football? Or where do they rank when you kind of rank the top 3 or 4 divisions in football?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a really good top-to-bottom division. I think it's going to be competitive all season long. We talked in the offseason, and I think most of us had them ranked second or third among all divisions, and I think they looked like that. Now, the question will be, with the 49ers glass or whatever it was called, how they look with all these injuries and if they can sustain and keep elevating the NFC West as a whole. But I think overall it's a good group. I still think the AFC West is probably the best division. Also went 3-1. Also had an interdivision game with the Chargers and Chiefs, so one team had to lose, just like the NFC West. But I think the NFC West is right behind. And when you talk about the Rams specifically, I think the offense is only going to get better. So the fact the defense dominated the Rams, offense will improve. They'll be a better team. When you look at the Seahawks, give my boy Sammy D a break, all right? He's got to get in the system. He's going to be better. The Seahawks are going to improve. And I think the Cardinals also showed some stuff there. I know the Saints are not some world beater, but I think the Cardinals can improve. And then just with the Niners, it's going to come down to injuries and health, and if they can actually field a full 22-man roster that stays healthy all year. So very good division. I would put them behind the AFC West right now, though.
All right, I'll go up next. And I can't give your boy Sammy D any break because Keyshawn and I, we knew. We were like that meme with Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he's like pointing at the TV. That was us. We were like, there it is, there it is. That's the moment. We're excited. Here it is. That's the Sam Darnold we know and love.
It's Joey Bosa.
Hey,
I mean, Nick Bosa. Give Nick Bosa credit, right? Don't hate on Sam Darnold. And this show is such a funny thing because it puts you in a position where you've got to defend. I've had to defend Geno Smith, a career backup, and now look at him. He's doing better. And then Sam Darnold, a career backup with this I see ghosts. And, I know they don't let me in those front office meetings anymore, Richard. They kicked me out.
They should. Yeah. I never thought I'd say this, but I miss Geno Smith. You guys should have kept Geno.
Document that.
Yeah. Hey, I think this division is tough. I think this is a good division. Like you mentioned, Ryan, the AFC West is also stacked, but I think the NFC North is also an excellent division when you consider, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, and then Chicago. Boy, they looked good, and then the Bears became the Bears, right? They are who we thought they were, and they let them off the hook. But I think that division is good. But yeah, I'm very impressed with the NFC West so far. And yes, San Francisco's walking wounded over there, Keyshawn. What do you think? I mean, I still think you guys have a lot of talent as long as you got Christian McCaffrey. But boy, we talked about on this show the value of a backup, and I thought you guys had the weakest backup, but we're going to find out, what happens now with a backup quarterback moving forward for you guys for at least the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Richard, we'll talk about the backup quarterback a little bit later, but I don't want to sound like a broken record. I know Ryan said the AFC West. I agree with them, but I'll use a different division. I actually think the AFC North is up there. I mean, yeah, the Baltimore Ravens, they pretty much died down towards the end of the game when letting Josh Allen make that huge comeback when they were down 15 points in the fourth quarter. But, man, they can put up some points, man. I think that duel between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is going to be lethal, and I still think they're going to be a double-digit win team this season. And they even look at the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they held the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins tandem to, I believe, under 30 yards receiving. I mean, they only had 7 yards of total offense in the second half. The Cleveland Browns, that is a great defense. And then say what you want, the Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers, they were the talk of the whole training camp of if Rodgers is washed or not. But, man, they put up some points as well against the New York Jets, a good New York Jets defense. So I can't scoff at that division. I still think the NFC West is up there, but I will have the AFC West number 1, the AFC North number 2, and number 3, the NFC West.
Yeah, you lost me when you were talking about the Browns, but you made up for it with Aaron Rodgers because, boy, he looked absolutely fantastic. It looks like he's back, and if you give him a chance, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over there in Pittsburgh. All right, in Seattle, not the best of starts. You guys are the only team to lose in the division. Somebody had to lose, as Ryan said. Give us your thoughts on the division as a whole.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to try too hard to be different here and go out and say, like, the AFC East is going to be the best division because that one is also a flaming garbage can. I am with Keyshawn on kind of the AFC North could be a little sneaky and not so much sneaky with the Ravens, but who knows between the Bengals and Browns. That was a close game. That was a fantastic game at the end of it. I still think that the AFC West will get better. As long as Patrick Mahomes is in the division, they're still scary. I don't think the Broncos showed what they're capable of defensively. defensively, they're going to be really good. Bo Nix wasn't quite as good as I think people were hoping him to make that year 2 jump. So, and then you've got Geno Smith, you've got Pete Carroll and the Raiders. I mean, I know that, Richard, you have all the respect in the world for Geno Smith, is well documented on this show, but I think he can, mess around and get something fun going with this offense. But for the NFC West, I would put them probably 1 or 2. There is no doormat of the division. Basically, until Call of Duty comes out in November and the Cardinals start tanking because Kyler Murray just gets back into his video game ways. But
I'm putting it in my diary that you said that.
Write it down. Write it down. There's so much competitiveness within this division. And the coaches are all very, very smart. Like, all respect to Jonathan Gannon, truly. I think he is doing a really good job so far in Arizona. And this year, as long as they can keep it consistent, you've got some of the greatest offensive minds in the game with Shanahan and McVay. And then Mike McDonald, it's going to be fun to see him go against Aaron Rodgers again this year. Remember last year, the Seahawks beat Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. It was a close game late, but it seemed like Mike McDonald had a few tricks up his sleeve to trick an untrickable quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who's entering his 94th season in the NFL.
I'm going to have to give you a touche with the Kyler Murray comment. That was pretty good. Using another meme, I'm going to use the Robert De Niro meme from Analyze This, where he's like, you're good, you're good. That was a good one. That was very good. All right, so now let's talk about who is the best player in the division. I'll go first because I have the best player in the division on my fantasy team, the Chimichangas, who are 1-0. Thank you very much. And that is the CMC Music Factory, baby. Christian McCaffrey coming through in week 1. People doubted him, Alyssa. People didn't go draft him this year. I said, you know what? I'm loyal. That's how I am. I'm a loyal guy, right? I stick with my guys. I said, I'm going back with Christian McCaffrey. He said he was feeling good. Then they did the whole thing of the scare with the calf. Everybody's like, oh, here we go again. He was fooling y'all. He came out, 9 catches, 22 carries. He was the guy, and I think they're going to rely on him even more now that they, have a backup quarterback. But I think Christian McCaffrey was the best player in the division. There was a bunch of other guys that played well. Keyshawn, let's go to you. And I was telling you that I was going to explain why the 49ers have been getting injured lately. It's because Alyssa's drafting 49ers, and she's like the Black Widow, the kiss of death over there. If she drafts one of your players, they're Dunsky. Thank God you didn't draft Christian McCaffrey.
I've got no defense.
Just give us your thoughts on who is the best player in the division.
Well, I got to go with the NFL voted. They voted Nate Landman the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. I mean, he had 10 tackles in that notable peanut punch forced fumble against the Houston Texans that pretty much sealed the game for the Los Angeles Rams to become 1-0. I mean, he was all over the place with 10 tackles in that forced fumble, so I got to give it to Nate Landman. But you brought up Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to show love to my DBs out there. Hey, Richard. Deommodore Lenoir had no catches, no receiving yards on him, and allowed no touchdowns. He is Mr. Lockdown in the division, so watch out for Lenoir this season.
Manure? What did you say? Hey, well, I'm talking about Will. What about Will Johnson? We just talked about my guy Will Johnson, the hit that he had.
Nah, man.
But anyway,
Demo allowed no catches. No catches.
No one. The Seahawks hardly targeted him. I mean, JSN and him were having that beef early. After Lenoir called him a crybaby. I mean, I don't know how often. I'd have to check film, but I don't know how much Lenoir and JSN were really like 1-to-1.
I like it. This is going to break down the film. Ryan, when you look at the film, who's the best player in the division?
Well, Keyshawn stole mine. I think Nate Landman was, NFC Defensive Player of the Week, and he mentioned the peanut punch there. So I'll pivot a little bit here, and I'll take maybe a cop-out. I'm just going to talk about the 4 number 1 receivers for each team. So Puka Nacua, 10 catches, 130 yards. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 9 catches, 124 yards. Ricky Pearsall, I think it's his first time over the century mark, 108 yards receiving. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., 70 or so yards and a touchdown. So each team's respective number 1. I know Pearsall's not truly the number 1, but he is kind of right now due to necessity. Each team's number 1 receiver balling out, and showing why they are wide receiver 1, and hopefully Allison will not draft any of them and they can stay healthy throughout the rest of the year.
Who's Allison?
Yeah, listen, what do you think? Who was your top player in the division? I know Jackson Smith played well, 9 catches, but McCaffrey had that along with 22 rushing attempts. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard for me, honestly, to choose just the star because I don't know if anyone completely balled out week one. Puka Nacua, in terms of statistics overall, your leading receiver, 130 yards, that's impressive, especially when he had to leave the game because you have to be evaluated for a concussion when you are bleeding from the head. Scary moment, and I think he showed a lot of toughness in that moment. But I'm going to give some props to your guy, Richard, Budda Baker, the crucial at the goal line when the Saints were trying to tie the game. That was a big play. I know Jalen Thompson was on it as well, but Budda really pushing it out, and he is one of the veterans of this NFC West division. I just don't know if anyone stood out so much that they are the #1 star. I mean, Matthew Stafford had 245 yards passing, but he was the exact same efficiency as Kyler Murray. I think everyone's still trying to figure out who they are, and I was also keeping an eye on Marvin Harrison Jr. I know he had a tug, obviously, this weekend, but I'm going to keep my eye on him to see if there is really a star developing there. Overall, JSN, yes, he did have a good game, but in terms of clutch as well, I know I'm going with a bunch of names here, but Brock Purdy, you got to give him the respect. He had 2 interceptions, and the very last drive of the game is when he decides to show up. That's probably why they wanted to pay him, keep him in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan has something special in terms of a guy who makes good decisions this year late, because I know last year he had some picks late in games, but I'm going to still wait to see if we have another star emerge from this NFC West division, because I don't think it was super obvious this week.
Well, it was obvious if you were watching the Chimichangas, but it's okay. I like the Budda Baker comment because he did have 10 tackles. He was all over the place. He's huge in week 1, right? Well, now let's talk about week 2, okay? Ryan, you guys took on the Texans in week 1. Now you're taking on the Oilers in week 2 and a rookie quarterback with Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, look at that Oilers throwback. Nice job there. But it should be a fun game. Rams travel out east for a 10 a.m. kickoff, which these West Coast teams seem to always have a little bit of struggle when they have that early kickoff window. But yeah, Cam Ward, I thought, showed some good stuff last week against a very good defense in the Broncos. Statistically, obviously didn't show up on the stat sheet very much, but showed some poise in the pocket, showed some command of the offense, and had an opportunity there at the very end of the game to put his team in a position to come back and potentially tie that, if not for a drop late. So definitely seems like he's maturing quickly, and the Rams defense will look to obviously shut him down like they did C.J. Stroud and do that. One interesting little note, Matthew Stafford, if he does beat the Titans, becomes one of just 10 quarterbacks to beat 31 of the 32 NFL teams. Shockingly, the only team he has not beaten aside from the Titans is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just learned that earlier today. So he has beaten the Rams when he was with the Lions and has beaten the Lions since being with the Rams. So if he beats the Titans, he can join an exclusive 10 quarterback club of beating 31 of the 32 teams. So it should be a fun one on Sunday.
Wow, yeah, and I'm so old. My first NFL training camp was the Houston Oilers. That's how far back I go, right? It's been a heck of a run, right? All right, let's check in in San Francisco. Keyshawn, you guys are taking on the Saints. Spencer Rattler was a pleasant surprise to me. I'm not sure if it was because the Cardinals didn't get a pass rush on him, or he's starting to mature his second year. He went to Oklahoma, was supposed to be the next Kyler Murray. Did good in South Carolina, but now he seems to be coming into his own. What are your thoughts on you guys with your backup quarterback heading to hostile territory?
Well, Richie, you just mentioned Spencer Rattler. I'm going to keep it real. He's going to be seeing ghosts on Sunday. I think we're going to have 3 sacks and force 2 turnovers on him. Because, oh, my God, Nick Bosa, if he pushing linemen into Sam Darnold from the ball, expect that on Sunday with Spencer Rattler as well. But, no, on a serious note, even though we're not going to have Brock Purdy on Sunday, I still think Mac Jones is going to run the offense. What's really going to boil down to with him is just don't turn the ball over. I know he has a bad tendency of throwing bad interceptions at the wrong times. So if he can just take care of the ball, the Niners offense will look pretty good, given the heavy doses of Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson Jr. in the backfield. Because the Saints gave up over 140 yards rushing last week against y'all with the Cardinals. So I think the Niners are going to run down their throat. But my real confidence really goes down with the Niners defense. I mean, y'all saw last week at Seattle where they did a Sam Darnold. I think Rattler's going to be seeing ghosts this Sunday. We're going to create a lot of pressure and create turnovers. And I just think, I got to note this. Their wide receivers, Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks, and Rashid Shaheed, they all had under 50 yards receiving. I have confidence in the Niners back, and they're going to shut them down. So all they got to really do is take away Alvin Kamara and Juwan Johnson's inside the hashes at the tight end position. If they could do that, the Niners will win, and they'll cover the spread. And I'm predicting a score of somewhere between 20-10, and Niners will have their first win of the season of the 2025 year.
All right, I'm marking it down in my diary. R.I.P. Spencer Rattler. He's done. Just seeing ghosts out there. All right, so speaking of quarterbacks, Alyssa, you guys have a tough quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. He looks like he is back, and he's in black and gold. What a first game for him, 4 touchdowns. Give us your thoughts on taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers and their new quarterback in Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, the first Steelers quarterback to pass for 4 touchdowns since 2020. You guys, it was Ben Roethlisberger. It's been a while since they've had somebody cooking behind the offensive line. The big storyline is, how does DK Metcalf perform against the Seahawks, his former team? What kind of things does Mike Macdonald dial up, knowing DK Metcalf's tendencies and trying to limit him because he is your over-the-top deep receiver? But I think in terms of the Aaron Rodgers-Mike Macdonald battle, we saw, like I said, against the Jets when he was still with the Jets last year, he caused some frustration with Rodgers, and it turned into the longest defensive lineman return for a touchdown off a pick. Leonard Williams, as players said after the game, big man running. He was going like 17 to 18 miles an hour up the sideline in New Jersey. So that was fun to see, basically, how Macdonald would put his defensive mind against one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. That is going to be a fun battle because obviously we know the hard count. We know that Pittsburgh is a hard place to play for any team, but for the Seahawks, they've actually been a very good road team. They're 7-1 under Mike Macdonald on the road last year. They've won 19 of their last 24 10 a.m. kickoffs on the East Coast, so that's pretty impressive. Obviously 1 p.m. Eastern time. But the other thing you've got to see from the Seahawks is how this run game comes together. Clint Kubiak hangs his hat on the run game. Do we see more play action? Basically, the Seahawks wanted to be more like the 49ers offense, and you've got to see that in week 2. The Jets against the Steelers in week 1 ran a bunch of zone run, and that is what the Seahawks were successful at in the run game. They only had 84 yards rushing, but they had a 55% success rate, 5.1 yards per carry when they had a zone run against the 49ers. So look for that and figure out who's going to be your RB1, Kenneth Walker, or is it going to be Zach Charbonnet? Seahawks fans are kind of pulling their hair out trying to figure out who they can rely on at running back.
Yeah, you kind of great point with the DK Metcalf taking on Seattle. So it's back-to-back revenge games for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Aaron Rodgers against the Jets and now DK against Seattle. And yeah, I was kind of shocked with the Pittsburgh rush defense. The Jets were able to run it down their throat. So that could be just what the doctor orders for that Seattle rushing game. For the Arizona Cardinals, it's their home opener. They're taking on the Carolina Panthers. When you look at that on paper, you're thinking, hey, easy win for the Cardinals, but not so fast. For some reason, the Carolina Panthers have had the Cardinals' number, and you would think another young quarterback like Spencer Rattler. It seems like the stars are aligning for the Arizona Cardinals to get these young quarterbacks early in the season, right? Spencer Rattler, then Carolina, then probably the backup with San Francisco. But look, this is not going to be a guaranteed win, and I think the Cardinals need to realize that. Look what happened last year. Late in the season, the Carolina Panthers kind of ruined the season for the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals need to have a chip on their shoulder, remember what happened last year and what happened the last couple of years when they played Carolina. For some reason, the Panthers seem to get the best of them, so they need to make sure they don't take them for granted, and we'll see what happens. If the Cardinals could start 2-0, that would be great. That would be a good. But again, last year, remember they started so well. I was already making playoff plans, and then after the bye week, it was bye playoffs. So I'm not falling for that one again. So we'll see what happens, right? And we'll see what happens next week when we all get together once again. Thanks for joining us. Great talking to you guys. We'll see if Sam Darnold can be a guy, because right now he's just not that guy. You should have got Gino back.
Can I say something real quick? Can I say something real quick?
Yeah. Of course.
I'm sorry. Hey, Niner fans, I made a critical mistake. I said first win, our second win this season. I forgot we already beat the Seahawks. My bad, y'all. My bad. Our second win this season coming this Sunday against the New Orleans Saints.
We didn't need that.
We thought you guys forfeited or something. We thought you gave it back. This is our yes, finally, right? First win on the road or something. Man, I don't know. We can fix it. But yes, we'll come back next week and we'll have a great time. We'll see what happens. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one, guys.